So a very warm welcome from Linc. Thank you for your time joining in the free training sessions that we are having on Fridays. Today's session will be specific about master data management within Business Central, and more specific to that, the sync of master data management between companies. I would like to introduce you to the team today in our session. Myself, I'm Gerard Meinhardt, and I will be presenting the master data management functionality within Business Central. Then we will have Carl de Beer joining us today, which will help us on Power Automate flows, just to show how you can handle master data management with flows as well. And then thanks to Marco Belcher that will be helping us with the moderation in our session today. So let's kick off and begin. Our agenda points today, just listed out. We will be working through them one individually. We will start off with moving master data when a company subscribes. So you'll have your target company and you'll have a source company, and then we subscribe the source to the target company, which we will then synchronize master data. So that will be our first agenda point that I will be showing you in Business Central. The master data management session today is based on Business Central version 22 and higher for all of those cloud customers that might be already on Business Central 22, or maybe for the on-premise that will still upgrade to Business version 22. Just a note on that. But before I kick off, I just want to share a short video with you. I think we can all share in the same frustration that we're having with master data today. So please give me a moment. I'm going to play you a short video. I hope you all enjoy.
This is Enterprise City, a utopia of interoperability where data flows seamlessly from workflow to workflow across integrated ecosystems. But it wasn't always like this. Not long ago, Enterprise City was stuck in a time of legacy, separated and attacked by silos, confused and distracted by misinformation, flooded with duplicates that overran even the simplest of files, and no single source of truth to be found anywhere. In this most desperate time of disparate data, a new hero arose. The hero Enterprise City needed. Someone we've always been familiar with, but really never knew. This is his story. All across Enterprise City, everything anyone touched turned to data. Businesses would suddenly transform from analog to digital. And instead of fabulous insight, it was nothing but chaos. To tame this overwhelming volume, velocity, and variety of data, with a flash, he emerged Master Data. Armed with his 4 core strengths of structure and connectability, coverage and quality, he was ready to wield his greatest weapon, the truth. When misinformation led to poor business decisions, Master Data fought back with indispensable content and quality. When silos severed relationship, Master Data brought connectability. When duplicates swarmed databases, Master Data uniquely resolved their identity. Master Data brought structure to the unstructured in every part of Enterprise City. So when silos, duplicates, and misinformation threaten, call for Master Data. Boldly laying the foundation for the data-inspired, bringing truth throughout your enterprise.
Good stuff. I hope you all enjoyed that. Just as an intro into our master session synchronization today. So let's get the Business Central screen in front of us so we can start with the master data management in Business Central. Perfect. So just in today's session, just to introduce you that I have created a source company A with some transactional data in it and with some master data. As you can see, I've got a couple of customers in the Cronus database. And if we go back, I've got a couple of vendors in this Cronus database, as well as some items created in this Cronus database. So today, I want to introduce the master data management functionality in Business Central as a new feature. And as said before, just as a reminder, this feature started to be valuable in version 22. So just to show you the target company that I'll be setting up the sync from source company A, just to show you that at this moment, we don't have any customers in here. So it's literally a blank company created with no vendors and with no items. So the first point that I want to take you through today in our agenda is when you have an existing company, which is in today's session called as source company A, and you would like to make a copy of that company, but you don't want any transactional information, this is one way of setting up an initial sync between the two companies so that you can sync your master data from your source company into your target company. Cool. So the next step would be is to go to your target company and start with the master management setup. And I have added the master management setup functionality as a shortcut on my homepage. But you can also find it when you go to the search and you can type in master data management, and that will also pop up so that you can access the tool. So I'm going to access the master data management setup, and you will see it's a plain, simple, straightforward screen where you need to select your connection settings. So I'm going to go ahead and select our company A that we created as our source company. So if you click on the connection, you would see that all the companies available in this tenant, in this environment, will be available for selection. And in our scenario today, we will be using source company A. So that means all companies available in this tenant, in this production database, or in the sandbox can be then available for selection, depending on the database. The next step now is to enable our data synchronization so that we switch it on and to actually start off with the actual synchronization. And that we can do with a Boolean field where we can switch it on right over there. So this means, as simple as that, we've selected our source company where we want to sync the data from, and we've enabled the synchronization. The next step would be is to start the actual synchronization. And that we do with the start initial synchronization functionality. So if we go and we select the initial synchronization functionality, this will now enable us to have a default set of tables that comes with the feature functionality in Microsoft to be synced from company A, which is our source company A, to our target company B. You can always at a later stage review the tables and table fields, which we will do right after we have done the full synchronization. And so the next step is now to have a full synchronization run so that we can have at least these default tables listed by Microsoft Sync from our company A to our company B, which is our target company. That we do by having the Start All button on the left top. So that will kick off and create job queue entries, start with a synchronization. Cool. Just a note that I want to point out today is the synchronization mode. There's two types of synchronization mode that you can use in the master data initial synchronization. You have a full synchronization. So this means we actually sync full table data from your source to your target. If the record exists in your target, it will be overwritten. So that means whatever is in your source will be replaced in your target company. Then you have match-based coupling, synchronization mode. That means that you can tell Business Central first to check and see if the primary key exists. So whatever data is in your source company and in your target company, first check what is in your target company and confirm if you do want to override the data or not. You have functionalities such as if it's synchronized after coupling that you can switch on. So that means is you can specify that once you found the coupling, you can synchronize. And if the data is not in that specific table on the primary key, you can create the new data. So that's just quickly on a high level introduction on the synchronization mode. So in the default initialization of Microsoft, we have both of these different synchronization modes that we will be testing today. So the next step then is to start the initial synchronization so that we can kick off with master syncing. So just info from Microsoft telling you that this is an one-off option that you will run. The jobs will be scheduled in the background, and we can refresh this page all the time to see whether the synchronization is successful or we have any errors. So I'm going to continue and I'm going to say yes. Now you'll find that once I selected yes, the job queue entry status started with a ready on the first dimension table. So from our source to the target, data will be synchronized. As I said, in the company that I've set up is an empty company, so there's no master data in there. And then the sync will then happen from source to target. So what you can do here is you can refresh this page to see how the synchronization is going. Job queues being created in the background and data being syncing from your source to your target company. So I'm going to give it a moment so that it can run and complete the initial synchronization. You can always go out and do something else and come back. But for today's purposes, I'm going to just have this page open in front of us so we can see how the synchronization status is changing. So you can see the currency table is now in process. The vendor posting group table is ready. Almost there. So far, so good. All jobs created successfully with a success job status. Cool. Initial synchronization completed successfully. As you can see that the job queue entry status are all finished. We don't have any master data in our initial synchronization that still needs to be set up via job queue or run. And we can also see that the job status is success. Now, sometimes what I have found in the past is when you run the initial synchronization, you can have fails in your job status. And if you have that fails, you can drill down on the job status to see the actual log entries of that job queue that was created. I'm just going to expand my screen to show. So in this instance, there was a record created, a log entry that shows us that 7 records was inserted from our source to our target company for this dimension data that we have, master data that we've synced across. You can see when it happened, what was the duration, and you can also drill down and see what was the records that was synced for that specific entry created. So if you have an error job status, you can drill down, you can see what is the error that caused the problem. Maybe there's some master data that exists and we would need to change it from a coupled sync to a full sync to rather replace and not find any records. Or it could be that a lot of these tables tried to sync at the same time and you had a deadlock entry in the database. The way to resolve that is you have a restart button on top. So what you would need to do is go to the specific table that had the error, and you can just click on the restart button. I'm just going to do an example. So once I hit the restart button, it will start the job queue over again for the initial synchronization. You'll find that the status of the job queue has changed now from finished to ready. And as I refresh that, it will then have a success if we have a successful synchronization. Cool. Just one maybe other option that I can show. If in that error state you want to change it from a full to a match-based coupling, you see the option is available on the ribbon. So what you can do is you can change that to a match-based coupling, and that means the job will change to a match-based coupling when we refresh the page. Perfect. So let's see what happened. If we go to target company B, and if we go to customers now, we should see all the customers that were synced through in the initial sync from company A. So if I go back to company A, now just have a look. It looks good. Let's see that all the customers are synced through. Let's do another test, and let's see if we go to the vendors page, we can see if all the vendors have synced through. Vendors page, yeah, it looks good. Looks like the same people that we have in company A. So that is the first point on our agenda item, just to show you how to set up the initial synchronization. So next up, that I want to show you on the synchronization is in the initial synchronization, there's only certain tables included for syncing. And you might wonder that if you have additional tables or tables that's not standard Business Central table that's done by customization, how will we include that in the initial synchronization? Because if you look in the initial synchronization, there's only a couple of standard tables that Microsoft bring through. That you will access from synchronization tables page. So you can either search for synchronization tables, map it for you, create for yourself a bookmark on here, and you'll find your synchronization tables, or you can go to your master data management setup and access it from the synchronization tables, depending on what is your way of getting to it in Business Central. So if we click on synchronization tables, this is now where we can have fun. We can add tables, we can remove tables, we can also specify specific fields that we want to synchronize from company A to company B, which would be more our constant synchronization that will run. So our initial created a master data, and the second step now is to actually have a continuous synchronization where whatever we changed in a chart of account level, creating new GL accounts, needs to be automatically created a new GL account in a target company. Or if you create a customer or any vendor in your source company, to automatically create that customer or vendor in your target company. What I want to demonstrate next is, if we look in the list, we don't see any item tables that we're currently synchronizing. And I want to add the item table. So whenever I add an item in our source company, it needs to sync automatically to the target company. So just to show you, before we start setting up the table, if I go to the items list view in our target company, we can see that there's currently no data in here. So let's go set up items. Let's sync the item table. We go to synchronization tables, and then we insert a new record in the table, and we select Business Central which table, or tell Business Central which table we want to add to the synchronization. I'm going to choose items as simple master data. And once I selected the item, Business Central will also come up and tell you that there's related master data tables. So that means that there's a relation between the inventory posting group or the unit of measure, which you also want to synchronize these tables to. So you can decide if you only want to do the item part itself, or only and add additional tables to. I'm going to say yes for our session today. So this means that the synchronization table list will grow, and it will add for all these additional tables from the item card related on our list so that we can sync that through. Note, once it's created these tables as additional tables to sync, the status is always disabled. So you would need to come and manually, after selecting the table, change the status from disabled to enable, which is an easy selection to do. So you can either just go onto the specific table and you can say enable, or you can have that in a multiple selection, like, in Business Central. You can select more than one record in this way. Select these records. I'm just going to add a couple. And you can then at once select enable from the actions button. So once you select enable multiple selection, you would see that all of these tables is now enabled. Cool. But this means that we've added in the table and we've enabled the table so that we can sync the master data for that specific table. But the next step would be is to actually select which fields we want to sync for that item table. And that you can access by using the Fields button. So if I click on the Fields button, you would see that by default, created the item table, all fields are disabled in the table created to synchronize. Again, you can select multiple records. I'm just going to select all for our session today, and you can enable the fields, or you can use them the disable if you want to disable fields. There's also the update fields button, just a quick explanation. When you have made development changes, which is not business standard, you can use the update fields to include custom fields in your table. So by default, when you create your item table, it will only create standard Business Central fields. But if you have any customizations, then you would need to hit the update fields button, which will then go and check if there's any development done. So it brings in those custom fields for you as well, additionally, onto the table. So this is great. You don't have to only have Business Central fields. You can also have dev fields included. Cool stuff. So now we have an item table from disable to enable. We have selected the fields, and now we can start the synchronization. So we would need to kick this off and say, well, there's the new item table. We want to kick that off. So we would need to start synchronizing this item table. I've selected the table, go to actions, and then I say run full synchronizations as the once off. So this means it's now it will sync for me the item table as per my selection. Once I do so, Business Central will let me know, watch out, new job queue will be starting. It will run in the background. You can continue with other work. Okay. It's the F5 to refresh the page. So we can see that we have started a full synchronization on items. We can see when our initial synchronization started on 9:15. A little bit later is our synchronization starting. Cool. Also on the synchronization tables, as in our initial synchronization, you can find the synchronization log, which is good to check and track whatever has happened in the synchronization. So you can see that in the log, when it started adding on that item table for synchronization, there's our full synchronization that started, and it inserted 22 records for us in our target company. Always good. That's the last agenda point on the item. Just jump into that in between as well to go and check logs and to see if you need to find and resolve any errors or master data that hasn't synced through. Your synchronization log will help you and guide you. Cool. So once we have the item synced successfully, let's go and test and see if we have any progress. Whatever we had in our source company as items, we have set up additional table, adding in this example items, select all fields, and then we can see all records from our source to our target for the item table has been synced successfully. So this is good news. No more trying to create a dual account or a customer or a vendor or any other dimension data in all the different companies, but rather having a source company as your template company where you can sync your master data from. Just on another point of view, I also want to show you if you continuously making field changes. So if you change master data specific fields, just want to show you the net effect of that as well. So I'm going to go to the target company B, and I'm going to use customers for our example. So as we go from day to day, we found that we might have a new customer and we want to add a new customer to our master data in our source company, which we want to sync through to all of our target companies set up. And maybe just something on that as well. You can set up as many as target companies syncing to the same source company. Cool. So I am working in my source company A. I will go to my customers, and for today's purposes, I will create a new customer card. Creating my new customer card, I'm just going to say master data management session, and I can do a couple of changes in the customer card as we wish by populating some posting setups, payment terms code, and so forth. So we can populate a couple of fields for the customer card. So then we can check on the customer's setup, on the synchronization setup on a target company to see that we have included the customer table, which is enabled. And we can also see what fields we have set up for the customers to sync through from target, from source to target. So if we then go back to our customer table in our target company, we would see that without having to recreate the customer, it also now exists in the target company as we have created it in the source. So now your customer card is duplicated and it exists. More specifically to the fields, if I do any field changes from your source to your target, so I'm going to choose the salesperson code field to sync through. I'm going to change this to Benjamin as the salesperson code, and I expect that then to sync through, which is in a field that we included in the sync to the target company. Just want to ensure that it's done. If we go to synchronization tables and we go to fields, we just need to ensure that salesperson is now also enabled, which is enabled. Just want to show you that you have to ensure that the field you've selected is there. Cool. So I haven't touched any job queue entries or restarted any job queue entries. And if I go to the customers table list view, and I go to that specific customer, we can see that the salesperson I've selected in our source company has also synced through to the target company as BC. So we can check and see that Benjamin is there and Benjamin is here. So that means even if I don't create a new record, but I update and modify existing records, when the field is included in the synchronization setup, then fields will also sync through, sync changes will also sync through. Cool stuff. But what if I change the salesperson code in the target company? So that means I want to rather have Esther Henderson as our salesperson code in our target company, but it hasn't changed from our source. So when I then make a change now and I say, no, it should actually be Helena and it should not be Esther. If I make changes now in my target company manually after the sync has run, it means that the change I made in the target company will be kept as the last modified change. So the change that I will do from my source company will have no effect now on the change that I have made in my target company. So this means that you could potentially have updated master data on your target and outdated data on your target, and you don't have all the updates that you want to sync through from your source. So how will we do and set up to prevent that? If we go back to our target company main screen and we go back to our master data management setup, we go back to the synchronization table, we find customer. So in a customer field as well, you go to the specific fields, and then you would find there's a field called override local change. So this means that whatever change was made in the target company will every time be overwritten now by the source company. So if I enable override local change, all changes made now in my source company will every time when I make changes sync over to the target company and update the target company. So that keeps our master data consistent. So the first way that I showed was to actually copy over the customer card, sync it through, sync all the fields, but then from there on the company want to manage their own master data. Or you can prevent that by having one single version of the truth, and you can have a source company that continuously update your target company so that you know your master data stays the same in all companies. So if I now go and I change it maybe to Otis Falls on a customer card in the source, I should be able now to see that change syncs through because I selected to override that change. So you can see that it updated it straight away to Otis Falls exactly as the same. Previous scenario did not because we did not have the skip local override set up on there. So that's maybe something also to keep in mind and consider when you're setting up your synchronization tables. I'm just going quickly back there to also keep in mind, if I go to the fields, whether you want to override local changes or not, so that it keeps syncing the data from your source to your target. Maybe just another option that I can introduce to you as well is you also have a table filter that you can select. So you can either select which records you want to include when you sync your customer table from source to target. And you have the full customer table fields available to do so. So if you want to not sync customers that are blocked, not blocked or blocked all, you would come into this filter page and say, I have a filter on here to only sync customers that's not blocked. So in that instance, the receiving company, the target company, will not have customer data in where the status in the source is blocked. So you could have these table filters set up for you on every table that you add onto your synchronization tables. Just as in to end the session on the master data side, before we go over to the exciting part where Carl will show us the flows, it's important always to check and maintain and know where to go and check for when there might be a synchronization error. And this is done by having the synchronization log as explained earlier. So this will keep a complete log of the synchronizations that's happening in the background. And it will tell you the full story. When we initially started the sync, there was a record change. It was modified again, and modified again. So you can see what was modified in this log entries. You can analyze with the new analyze functionality that we had a week or two ago, a session that you can see. You can delete log entries. So it's good to always go back and see if there was an error and what is the error, where do we find the error? As well as you can go to the job queue entries, to that specific job queue entry, and you can see what is either the log of that specific job queue entry, or if you want to quickly just run it once or restart it, or there might be an error status so that you change the status to ready for some reason where there might be a deadlock error, or there might be master data that might exist and your setup is not 100% correct. If I go one step back, And just an overview of the master data management setup. If I click on the sync job queue entries, you can see all the job queue entries that were created in the background for the specific tables that we've added into our master data management setup. And you can also see there's some errors that might pop up that we would need to investigate and see why is there any errors that we would need to resolve. So if we go to the log entries, we can see there's a status, error status. Just want to show you so that you know where to go and find. There are no field mapping rows for the integration table mapping, for example. So then you know exactly where to go and look and find that if you have any issues having syncing data from source to any target company, where to find and where to look for that. Cool. So yeah, that is a very quick high-level session through to introduce to you the master data management setup of Business Central. I hope that you have enjoyed the session and that you have learned a lot. And please feel free to post any questions after Carl's session. So we will be gladly to answer any of those sessions. Carl, so thank you very much, and over to you.
Cool, thank you, Gerard. Good morning, everyone. I would like to show you now the other side of the data synchronization from a Power Automate perspective. So it works quite similar than what Gerard showed you now. The only difference is we can specify exactly certain tables that we want to sync and only certain values, the same as that Gerard did. And then the only thing that you need to keep in mind, you do need a Power Automate premium license for all Business Central flows. So the few flows I had set up for you is to create the initial create. Then whenever a new record is created in our source company, when an update is made in our source company, and as well when a record is deleted in our source company. So I have two companies set up over here. The one is called Karel se Winkel. This is our source company. And then Karel Test will be our target company. So they are both in the same tenant. You can do across multiple tenants. You can also update master data across multiple tenants using Power Automate. But for this scenario, I'm just going to focus on our one tenant. To show you the first flow is the initial sync of the data. So the backbone that I used in this scenario is Excel. It is a bit more user-friendly. There is capabilities to use Dataverse. Dataverse will be the better option to use. But for most people that's not too familiar with the whole Power Platform side, I would suggest to rather stick with Excel. To show you how my Excel looks like, it's just a few, I only use the number, name, and email address, and then the both record IDs for our source company and our target company. And now this Excel file is stored on a OneDrive, a shared OneDrive folder that you can use then. So our initial sync, this is this flow. So this is just a manual flow that you can run directly from the Power Automate app. I just turned it off for now because my data is already in the Excel table. To show you how it looks like, let me just edit the flow. So this basically does, it finds the records in our source company and it goes and looks for records in our Excel sheet and then try to find a one-to-one match. And if there isn't a one-to-one match based on our record ID, we say apply to each, our conditions, and then we add a row into Excel. Then our second flow will be, as soon as we did our initial synchronization, is to create new, as we are busy, as once the initial sync is done. So this is this create one over here. So the trigger is just when a record is created, we go and get the record, add it into our Excel sheet. Then as soon as it's added into our Excel sheet, get the record and add it into our destination company. Our second flow for after the initial sync will be the update the record. So the trigger will then just be when a record is modified in our source company, go and get the record, update our Excel row, get the Excel row and update our target company with the record that was modified. And then our third flow is the delete one. So this is just whenever a record is deleted, go and get the record, delete it from the target company. And then what I've did on Excel, I'm not going to delete the record from Excel. It's nice to have a log still in our Excel to know, okay, right, someone deleted over here. We don't want it completely gone. And also, if it's completely gone, we can't do a revert. So if you accidentally deleted the record in your source company, I have a separate flow to just press revert and then it changes, make the changes back as it was. Now, to show this in action, I'm going to go to my source company. I'm going to go to customers. And I'm going to create a new customer over here. So just select new and say master data management. And I'm going to give it a email address. Okay, and as soon as we go back, we can have a look at our flows. From Power Automate side, you can, there's log entries of each and every time a flow ran to show you the log. So there was a create action. So let's go to create and we look at our run history, which is basically your log. And then we can see it is running now. Okay, and there's just to show you our Excel. So there's the list. So it added the master data management with our source row ID. And then as soon as it is created in our target company, let's go to customers. Okay, there's MDM. The second flow will run to update target row ID. So there's a separate flow for that just runs. Normally it takes a few seconds. Okay, and there we go. There's our target ID as well. So I use these because the row ID is the primary key of a record in Business Central. So that's why I'm using the row IDs. Now, whenever I modify a record, so let's go to Business Central again and work on Master Data Management. And let's change the name now to say test. Okay, and as soon as it's saved, our second flow will run. And this value over here should then change to test. Just going to keep the side. There we change to test. And if we go back to our target company and we go to MDM, let's just press F5. They changed to test as well. And now the last one is then if we would like to delete our record now, so our MDM, let's just say they're no longer a customer of us and we're going to delete them. So now what it will do, like the one above that I tested earlier, it will clear only the row IDs and change it to blank. Okay, and go here and press F5. And there we go. There it's removed from our target company as well. And our Excel backbone changed to blank. So this is just one example of how we can sync the data in Power Automate. It's nice to have a look like what I did in our previous session to notify a certain user, say for instance, when a record is added in our target company, to make approvals. So that's all possible with Power Automate. So you can't just go and add something. There's also capabilities for us to change. So the same as what Gerard showed you, if I went to change a record in our customer, in our target company, if I would have to change the record to revert it back to what our source company's record is. So that's also a capability that we can do with Power Automate. Cool, so that's all from my side. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat and just direct them to either myself or Gerard. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Carl. Thank you for having also introduced the Power Flows as another option to sync master data within Business Central. I would just like to share my screen again, just as a recap of what we have done in our session today. We've showed you how to move master data from one to another company. We showed you how you can define tables and fields, specific tables or specific fields to synchronize based on the type of synchronization, as well as the filter on certain table records. We've also showed you that the changes that you've made in your main company are also immediately pulled through to the receiving companies by using the job queue functionality. And as we have to see if everything goes smooth, and if we need to troubleshoot, we need to review the synchronization logs, and then super stunning Power Automate flow that Carl showed us today as another option to sync master data. So thank you from our side for attending our session today. If you have any questions, please go ahead and post them in the Q&A section. We will be here up until 10 to help you answer any of those questions. And just a friendly reminder, if you have any topics or any ideas that you want us to show you we're trying to have it every second Friday, please send an email as in the invitation sent out to you, so that we can introduce to you the specific topics that you want to see. Thank you for your time. Thank you from our side.